So today I want to answer questions about real estate, and that's me, Curtis Knight Real Estate. So what was that he just held up? So my new fancy logo, and this is me with a little picture of a house. So today I want to give you some stats on Billerica, because that's my area where I'm a realtor and a broker. And I also want to see if I can share my screen, and please forgive me that I'm learning while I'm talking to you. All right, so I can't share my screen with you. So if I can't, then I'm just going to read stats to you from Billerica, and you can, while I'm doing this, you can chime in and ask questions about real estate. And I don't know everything, but I do know enough to answer a few of the questions that you might want to ask. So feel free. So I have two screens, and I'm looking at one as I talk to you, and then there's another one right here where I have all my stats for Billerica. And I'm looking at what has happened in the real estate market since the pandemic hit, and I just had to jump in somewhere to give you some actionable data if you're getting ready to either buy or sell a home. So right now, in spite of the fact that in the past couple of weeks, and as I'm making this, the date is, I'm looking over at my calendar, December 10, 2020. So things have quieted down considerably in the real estate market in the past 2 weeks. And all of us real estate agents are starting to, oh my God, because hardly anybody's buying all of a sudden and hardly anybody's selling. And as of maybe a month ago, back in October, November, let's say, if you were to sell a home in Billerica and you held an open house, sometimes you'd have anywhere from 30 to 40 to 50 or 80 people come through your open house. Now, second week of December, I'm sneaking a peek up at my calendar to make sure it's the second week of December. Now, when we hold an open house, sometimes there's one or two or five people that come through, and sometimes zero, which is terrifying to a real estate agent. So, what are the reasons for that? So, it's one thing or the other. There are two possible reasons why the market has slowed. It always does slow down because there are two cycles throughout each year where real estate really booms. And one of them is May and June, which is also the wedding business, by the way. I have another business where I'm a wedding master of ceremonies, and I have a company, and we go out and we do weddings, and I supply the photographer and the videographer and the DJ and the justice of the peace. So in that business, where I provide event services, I have an event services company. There are two hot cycles in that business as well, and they are identical to the real estate business. So in event services for weddings, the two big cycles throughout the year are May and June. That's one big hotspot, and then September, October. So those two-month periods are where we do a ton of weddings and we sell a ton of real estate. Almost half of all your weddings happen in those two super busy periods, and proportionately a lot of your real estate gets sold. So after we do May and June in the real estate world, things drop off in July and August because the kids are out of school and people are on vacation, and they just don't laser focus on buying or selling real estate. But then once the kids get back to school, then they get back and say, all right, let's take care of this real estate. So September, October, the real estate business is on fire. And then it drops off November, December. However, there is a little bit of a burst in December because people who have a little bit of dough, people who have some money, and people who can buy a place, they want to get that purchase on the this year before it turns into next year for tax reasons. You want to buy things before it turns into the next year so you get the savings and all the tax breaks that come with making a large purchase. So there is a burst in December. So, and hopefully when I'm beside my bed on my knees tonight, I'll say, please let the December burst happen full force this year. So I want to talk to you about Billerica. And while I do this, feel free to chime in and ask any questions that you want, or if you just want to say hi, because we haven't seen each other in a while. So I'm looking over at my other screen, which is right here. So in Billerica, the average sale price for a home, and I should actually print this out and hold it up to you, The average price for a home back in March was, sorry that I'm delaying you, it's going to make you crazy, 513,000 and change in Billerica. 513,000. That was in March. Average cost of a home sold in Billerica. April, it hovered around 513. Then we go all the way forward to July. Average price of a house sold in Billerica was 509,000. Then we jump to September, 533,000, and then jump to November, which is the most recent full month of stats that I have. That was $538,000, your average cost of a home in Billerica. When I bought my house back in 1995, I don't know what the exact cost of a house was, but it was somewhere around 140, 145, 150. And now in Billerica, 520, well, 538 for the month of November. Average price of a house sold in Billerica. Crazy. So I will jump to Chelmsford and I'll give you those stats. And it's going to be impossible for you to remember. Switching over to Chelmsford. It'll be impossible for you to memorize all this stuff. It's going to go by too fast. So I'm going to post on a blog if you have any interest. If you go to curtisknightrealestate.com, pretty interesting. I mean, it's not pretty interesting. It's pretty easy to remember, curtisknightrealestate.com. There'll be a blog post there, and all this information will be there. And why would you want to access this information? Because you want to have as much info as you can when you're getting ready to buy or sell a home. And I get asked almost every day by buyers and sellers, is now the right time? Should I wait? Should I wait? Should I wait? So my answer to that is it's always the right time to buy and it's always the right time to sell. And you would say to me, oh, easy for you to say because you're a real estate agent and you want everybody to buy and sell. No, um, I'm an impulse-driven person. I do things crazy all the time, and I pull the trigger before I have all the information. And the house that I live in is it's a really big house now. It's 8,800 square feet if you include the lower level, so it's a huge house, and it has 7 bathrooms in it. But it was so expensive, it actually pulled me under, and I went into bankruptcy, and I had to fight my way back. So I do make mistakes, but I do call them as I see them. And I wanted to expand my house, and I wanted to enlarge it, so I did, and I spent too much money, and I pulled myself under. So now we're back and everything's beautiful, but that was a tough time. The only time we really experience periods of growth is when we are challenged. If you don't have any challenge, you don't have any growth. So I did do a lot of growing. So anyway, the point is, I'm always ready to buy a property and I'm always ready to sell a property. And if you make a mistake, you make a mistake, and then you live by it. So the reason it's always good to buy right now is because the rates are so low. When I bought my house in 1995, I was at 8%. So I just started paying 8%, and then I refied, then I refied, then I refied, and now I'm at 2.8%. 2.8%. It's crazy. So if I buy a house that costs a little more than I should spend for it, I'm only paying 2.8. So I don't really care about that. So is it time to sell? Absolutely. Because right now we are at the top. Let me see how high I can go. We're at the top of the market. It's never been this good. It's never been this high. It's never been this aggressive. And if you are a seller, now is absolutely the time to sell. In a perfect world, if you could sell your property right now and then wait until the market crashes and values come down, that would be the perfect formula. But who's able to do that financially? Very few people have one house that they can sell, take all that money while the market is high, but they have someplace else to go, like another house. And you can go live there and wait for the market to crash, then buy your new house. Nobody has that. Everybody has, well, 99% of the populace has one property that they live in. So they don't have the luxury of selling their house now and then not buying a house because it's the top of the market and prices have never been higher. But even if they are higher, my opinion, and my opinion is nothing, I'm just some dude in the middle of nowhere, but my opinion is it's always time to just pull the trigger. Get the property that you want, even if the market is high and you're paying premium dollars. Another thing that always comes up is the people who are buying the houses say to me, I don't want to overpay for my home. And they'll say, well, this house is on the market for $399,000. So what do you think it's going to sell for? And as of 2 months ago, when they would ask me that question for a Billerica, Massachusetts property, I would say, all right, it's on the market for $399,900. I believe this property will sell for between $450 and $500. It's being listed for $399,900, so let's call it $400,000. I think it's going to sell for between $450,000 and $500,000 because everything is going for way over asking price. So my buyers kept saying, I don't want to overpay, I don't want to overpay. So they don't want to put in an offer of $450,000 or $460,000 or $470,000 on a house that's listed for $400,000. So I noticed, and there's a point to the story, it'd be a little tough to follow, and you might even fall asleep. But if you stay with me, this is a nugget of wisdom that you can carry with you. I have noticed that when I have a property for sale, and I run all the comps, the comparable housing prices. So when somebody says, hey, can you list my property? I'll say, yeah, I can list your property. I'll sell it for you. And I do a CMA, comparative market analysis. So I do my CMA, I pull all different comparable properties for very close. I have to stay within a half a mile as the crow flies, straight line as the crow flies, within a half mile or even within a quarter of a mile to make these properties be in the same neighborhood. Once you get more than a quarter of a mile away, you're not comparing apples to apples anymore because you have to be in the neighborhood where the house is. You can't pull a comparable property from 10 miles away because that's a different neighborhood and that's a different pricing structure. Like, we're in Billerica, so a house that sells for $400,000 in Billerica might sell for $800,000 in Concord or Carlisle or Bedford or Lexington. It's the same house on the same lot of property. It's just a lot more expensive. It's just the way that neighborhood is, the way that town is. In certain parts of Billerica, the house would be $400,000, but in another part of Billerica, it might be $450,000. Same house, same lot of land, depends on where it is. So I pull all my comps and I say, this property's worth $400,000, or actually it's worth $420,000. That's what my CMA, comparative market analysis. My CMA reveals that it's worth about $420,000. So I'll tell the seller, I want to slightly underprice your property. That brings a lot of buyers. That's what we want because people say, hey, this thing looks like Redfin says it's worth $420,000, Zillow and Trulia say it's worth $420,000, but it's on the market for $399,000. So let's go take a look at it. So I slightly underpriced the property. That brings all the buyers. And then somebody says, okay, it's being listed for $399,000. Let's put in an offer for $480,000. So they put in the offer for $480,000 and we accept the offer. Because the buyer has a lender, the lender will not let the buyer have that property. They won't give them the loan until they know that there's actually a house that exists on that property. They have no idea. They're the lender. They're sitting at their desks pushing paper all day with their shirt and tie on, but they don't know that this property exists. So they send out somebody to verify that there really is a property, first of all, and second of all, is it worth what the buyer is offering for it? All right, so this property is on the market for $400,000, $399,900, and the buyer just offered $480,000. So the seller said, I accept your offer for $480,000. So now the lender says, all right, I want to send out an appraiser to verify that the property is there and that it's worth $480,000. So each time this happens, the appraiser contacts me, the selling agent, the listing agent. I have it listed on MLS. I've got the property for sale. So they call me and they go, hey, my name is so-and-so. I'm an appraiser and I'm about to appraise this property that you have for sale. So can you meet me at the property and can you let me in? And I say, yep. So I go to the property and I meet them. And I will always, as part of my due diligence, I'll print out a report. See if I have one. Do I have one? I might. So it looks like this. It's a big, thick, I don't know if you can tell how thick that is, but I bind it and I put a spine on it. This one I actually did for Dan and Kate. So I do all this research and I do all these comparable properties and I show the appraiser, although this was on the market for 400,000, it really is worth 480. And here are all the comparable properties from the neighborhood, so that the appraiser will say, oh, all right, you've done my homework for me. And every time, almost without exception, the appraisal comes in at the agreed to sale price. So I could never understand, and there is a point to this, and I'll make the point, and you'll go, oh my God, I almost fell asleep. But there is a point to this. So time after time after time, the appraiser says to the lender, yep, this property's worth 480. They always ask me for a copy of the contract to purchase or the purchase and sale. So those are the two contracts that you use. If you have questions on any of this, you can call me, text me, or email me. All my information, all my advice is for free. I don't charge for anything. It's a public service. So you can learn a bunch of stuff. I'm happy to tell you whatever I think I know. So every time the appraiser makes the appraisal come in at the sale price, and I couldn't get my head around it. Why does this happen? So after it happened for the most recent time, and I had it on the market for, let's call it $400,000, the offer comes in at 480. We accept the offer. The appraiser calls me, hey, I need to appraise this for the lender who's going to loan the buyer the money. So I say, okay, and I meet them there, and I give them the book. The day of the appraisal, I say, hey, I made this for you, and it's got all your work already done for you. So you can take this if you want, or you know what you're doing, you can throw this in the trash if you'd like to. So every time they go, hey, pretty cool, thanks, and they take it. So I noticed that every time the appraisal comes in at the sale price. So I made it a point at the next several times that I met an appraiser, I said, can you tell me why every time an appraiser does an appraisal on a property and the offered price is way up over the asking price? And we've already done our homework and we know that this property is worth about 420. I'm listing it for 399.9. We got an offer for 480. The offer's been accepted and now the appraisal comes in at 480. Can you tell me why the appraiser does that? And all four of the appraisers that I asked gave me the same answer. And it was almost, the verbiage was very, very similar. And this is what they told me, and this is the point of the story. You might have lost faith and thought there was no point. There is. The appraisers told me on the day of closing, when we get to the end of the closing and the buyer gets the keys, and then the attorney's office uploads a copy of the deed and the recordable documents get sent to the registry of deeds and it becomes a matter of record, that property that was worth 420, that was on the market for 399.9, that we received an offer of $480,000, because that's the market, that's what's happening right now in the market. That property on the day of closing becomes valued at $480,000. And that is what that property is worth. Because a property is worth, and this is where you, if you're going to write something down, write this down. A property is worth what someone is willing to pay for it. Even if I've run all the comps and that property says it's worth $420,000 based on all the other properties in the neighborhood, if somebody's willing to pay $480,000 for it, that is the value of that property, $480,000 on closing day. And the day after closing day, and you're moving all your stuff into your new house and you just paid $480,000 for it, the day after closing, a real estate agent in that neighborhood is going to say, oh, I have to sell this house. And it's about 5 doors down from the one that you just bought and you just closed on it yesterday. That real estate agent is going to say, all right, I'm putting together my CMA, my comparative market analysis, to find out what this property is worth. Oh, here's a property that just sold. It just closed yesterday for $480,000. So I'm going to use this as one of my comparable properties. See how that works? A property is worth what someone is willing to pay for it. And that is why the prices of real estate in this area are going higher and higher and higher and higher, because it is a seller's market right now. So, and this is a hypothetical statement, for every property that goes for sale in Billerica, there are 50 buyers that are just dying to get into Billerica. They want to be part of this neighborhood. 2 years ago, Billerica was the #7 safest town in Massachusetts out of 351 cities and towns, #7. Also, 2 years ago, in the national survey for safe towns in America, Billerica was #27 in the entire country, just over 35,000 cities and towns. So Billerica is very desirable. People want to come here. They want to live here. We have great police, great fire, great rescue, great everything. It's just a great town to live in, and I love living here. I live in Billerica. So that's the whole secret why the houses are getting more and more and more expensive, because there isn't enough inventory. That's what we call all the houses that are available for sale. How's the inventory in Billerica? Well, there is none. So a year and a half ago, there were 88 houses for sale, and as of yesterday, there were 17 houses for sale. Very little inventory. So because there are so few houses and so many people trying to move to Billerica, that drives the price up. And when people offer way up and above what the asking price is, the appraiser says if the buyer is willing to pay that, then that's what the property's worth. So now you know. It's a nugget of wisdom. So all right, I'm looking for questions. I don't see any, so that makes it a quick day for me. And so I told you that in Billerica, starting in March, the average cost of a house was $513,000, and then we go all the way to November, it jumped up to $538,000. Average cost of a house sold. Let's go to Chelmsford. Starting in March, average cost of a home $469,000, but as of November, $515,000. Everything is going slowly higher, moving like a glacier. Moving on to Tewksbury. Starting in, I'm looking at my other monitor, which is over here. Tewksbury in March, average cost of a house sold $501,000. In November, $530,000. Everything is getting more expensive. It's a seller's market. There are more buyers than there are sellers. And finally, Wilmington. And by the way, when people say, I'm looking to buy a house, sometimes they want to look in Concord, Carlisle, Lexington, Bedford. Those are more expensive than Billerica, Chelmsford, Tewksbury, and Wilmington. So that's kind of a delineation between two types of buyers. Some buyers are ready to spend $800,000, and some buyers are ready to spend $400,000. $400,000. Why is my voice so high? So now in Wilmington, in March, average cost of a house sold was $611,000. Fast forward to November, $594,000. Prices actually dropped in Wilmington. That is going to do it for today. You can, let's see, I don't even have my contact information. Well, this isn't a very good presentation, is it? But just so you don't forget me, this is who we are, and I will eventually figure out how to share my screen, and it says that I can. So here, tune out and turn me off, and let me see if I can figure out how to share my screen. Oh, share your video. Oh no, that's not it. Forgive me for trying to learn this on your, I hope you're not watching. Don't watch, don't look at me. I can't find it. And I'm not very tech savvy, sorry. No, I'll do some more homework. All right, you can just Google me if you want to see what people think of Curtis Knight Real Estate. And if you want to contact me with any kind of question, you're not wasting my time and you don't have to compensate me. I'm happy to help anytime. All right, I'm going to sign off. Thanks.